Hello. It's a pleasure to be sharing and reflecting with all of you once again. The day is Tuesday, August 1st, 2017. And August is a profound month in the astrology. And so without any hesitation, let's talk about this time in this day and age. We are, of course, entering an eclipse season. And in 1 week we will have a partial lunar eclipse in Aquarius, followed by a total solar eclipse in Leo. And so wherever the moon's nodes are, those points in which the moon passes the plane of the ecliptic is known as the moon's nodes, in astrology known as the finger of fate, or the direction of our soul. Our evolutionary intention is described by the positioning of the moon's nodes. And so we're talking about a collective endeavor, a collective evolutionary step that is going on at this time. And with any eclipse season, there is a time of tremendous change, which can happen spontaneously, unexpectedly, and really bring us on board with our soul's evolutionary journey. But yes, in general, astrologers use terms such as portals or gateways, because there is this sense, there is this momentum of things being sucked up, of things being brought in, things leaving, things coming. This, in general, is the energy and the potency of an eclipse season. And of course, this is a lunar eclipse in Aquarius, which is ruled by the planet Uranus, a planet renowned for his own unexpected, shocking changes of direction, and the potential of which is liberation, breaking from the patterns of the past or the known, and stepping into the future. The opportunity is to bridge the present with the future. And all of this momentum and changing, what comes in, what leaves, may it be for all of us in alignment with that momentum, bringing us into our soul's potential. And so in just a couple days, August 3rd, Uranus is stationing retrograde at 28 degrees of Aries. And this is a powerfully Uranian time, because not only is Uranus stationing retrograde on the 3rd, not only does the planet Uranus rule this lunar eclipse in Aquarius on the 7th, but the prior new moon in Leo was square to Uranus. The next new moon, which is a total solar eclipse on August 21st, is trine to Uranus. And so we're dealing with a thoroughly Uranian time. And keywords for Uranus are liberation, breakthrough, breakdown, bridging dimensional gaps, bridging the present with the future. And of course, divine discontent is the phrase I love to associate Uranus. A restlessness, which in itself is a gift, but it provokes through divine discontent these changes, which again, they can happen spontaneously. And it is a breakthrough sometimes that we have not been expecting, but there is the opportunity for us to bridge a huge dimensional gap and take several strides in the direction of the future, even further than we may have believed possible. The opportunity is here and now. So we have Uranus turning retrograde, 28 degrees Aries, will be trine to the approaching solar eclipse at 28 degrees Leo on August 21st. 28 degrees of the fire signs. You want to look to your chart. Any planets at those degrees are being initiated. It is time to go for it. It is time to reform. It is time to break through. It is time to initiate new patterns. Uranus stationing retrograde at 28 degrees Aries is about the revolution of our own self-image and identity. How we see ourselves is having the opportunity to change, so that way we can step into a more liberated and more authentic self-expression. Now, Jupiter is also squared to Pluto this Friday, August 4th. This is a closing square between Jupiter and Pluto that also talks about a creative tension inviting catalysts of change that is provoking us to evolve our own personal truth, our own personal philosophy, our goals, and our direction in life. This lunar eclipse, approaching on the 7th, will be trine to Jupiter. The sun will be sextile to Jupiter. There is an opportunity for opening, for releasing, for expanding, again, revolutionizing, evolving our own personal philosophy, truth, understanding, very fundamental conceptualization of what life is fundamentally all about, is going through a highly transformative change. And in the midst of this change, there can be uncertainty. There can be doubt. Is it even possible to step into this newfound expression of liberation? Is it even possible for us to bridge this gap and come into the future? And there can be a crisis of consciousness described by this closing square, which is how do we do this? How do we bring in these new patterns? How do we bring in these new truths? How do we bring in this new philosophy? And the key words with Uranus and Jupiter is experimentation and exploration. We are exploring, we are opening, we are releasing, we are breaking through, and we are discovering what it is on the other side. And so the last Jupiter-Pluto conjunction was at the very end of 2007, beginning of 2008 in Sagittarius. And there can be some reflection in the truth, the philosophy, the directions that were formed during that time. And we are coming to another evolutionary gateway, an evolutionary step, as the next Jupiter-Pluto conjunction will be in Capricorn in 2020. Along Jupiter's south node, Saturn's south node, Pluto's south node, the 2020 conjunction will have to do with the beginning of a fundamental new truth and philosophy that is liberated from all authority, expectations, and obligations coming from our culture, tradition, past, history. And this is about us liberating ourselves from patriarchal conditioning. Expectations and obligations that get assigned to social roles, gender roles, religious obligations, nationality, what your race is. All of these limiting expectations of what it means to be a human being and what we're supposed to do is what gets in the way of our authentic soul's liberation, us being our true expression. And so what is Aquarius? Aquarius is about breaking down and liberating from all such limiting roles. One of the most obvious descriptions, one of the most apparent symbols we have right now, moving into this age of Aquarius, is the liberating that is happening in the endeavor of sexual revolution. What we're talking about is how there is no longer simply two genders. If you are at all involved with the LGBT, it's always changing. There's always new words coming. There's new definitions. There's new sexes. There's new understandings. There's new phenomenon that is being discovered as people are simply acknowledging their truth and their essence. Such as, I am in this body, but I don't identify with this body. I am in this role, but I don't identify with this role. And so we're seeing transgender and a number of this phenomenon coming up, which is just one small facet of us moving into the age of Aquarius, which is, again, Aquarius is fundamentally about liberation from all limiting roles. Who you're supposed to be in relation to the other, in relation to yourself, in relation to your environment, in relation to our culture, our day, and our age. And so, speaking of relationship to the other, this could have been one of those key areas these last couple weeks, as Venus was transiting through Gemini, and this last week opposed Saturn, and this last weekend squared Chiron. As we said in the last video, this can be experienced as isolation, relationship tension, feeling alone, misunderstood, unlovable. There's something wrong with us. And there is a big healing with this Venus square to Chiron. Healing our hearts, healing what we love and what we value, so we can connect with those that we love, who recognizes us for who we truly are. The same way, sometimes these unfortunate transgender people are born into families or situations that don't recognize them for who they are, and there's a very difficult rite of passage breaking away from those that restrict us from being who we are naturally born to be. And so there are some similar themes here about creating relationships that allow for a mutual harmony and recognition and respect. And Venus is forming in opposition to Juno this Friday and this weekend as well. Which, again, these themes of how to get simultaneous emotional security. I feel safe at home. I feel safe in my relationship. This person gets me. And it functions. It works. At the same time, we get stuff done. It's happening practically. We're creating foundations that allow for that type of respect. And fortunately, Venus just moved into Cancer yesterday, July 31st. And coming up in the next couple weeks, August 12th, she's forming in conjunction to asteroid Ceres, and she will also be trine to Neptune. And so for those of you who have been experiencing these relationship difficulties, these healing endeavors in relationships, which is a part of this fundamental revolutionizing and liberating of our true nature, which can sometimes involve separation, which can sometimes involve breaking boundaries and liberation, coming out of the frying pan or the prison. It can be a part of this. But there is opportunity for us to come in, for us to come into ourselves, for us to form relationships that feel nurturing, where there is that deeper emotional bond, and we have that deeper purpose. That's at the root of every relationship. There must be a purpose for that union, which is a mutual truth, a mutual philosophy. We're dealing with changing truths, changing philosophies these days. What are these philosophies becoming? What are these truths that we're embodying? What is this individual vessel that I am? And how can I release my own expression in a way that is so liberating, it allows me to connect with other souls on a similar endeavor, similar path, similar progressive movements or humanitarian endeavors? These are also Aquarius keywords. Progressive humanitarian movements, fighting for equality, fighting for justice. And this is the point. What unites us all can be what held us back in the past, what kept us restricted in the past. Many people that I work with are coming from very dark and difficult past experiences, and they are in a process of breaking free and healing themselves. And in claiming that story, that purpose, that essence that they are, they then have the opportunity to connect with other souls on similar endeavors and find a true tribe, a true family that involves that type of progressive humanitarian movement that gives a very purpose and meaning and significance to our own personal struggles, which bridges that gap between us feeling isolated and us feeling connected to something that is bigger than us. When we find ourselves in the place where nobody can relate, where we can try and try and try to reach out and to speak and connect with others, but people just fundamentally do not understand this personal experience, this personal story, this personal trauma. That is all what is initiating the pioneer. Where there is nobody to relate to, there begins the path of the pioneer. And it's just the beginning of the path of the pioneer. When we accept our position being a pioneer, nobody understands me. This is my truth. This is what I must own. This is what I must take inside of myself. This is what I am healing in myself. The healing process begins with the recognition. And then once the recognition, oh, there's a wound, there's a trauma, there's a pain. there's that sense of insecurity and frazzledness and trying to grab on and trying to escape and push away at the same time. That is what initiates this journey of, well, this is my path of healing. And it begins with the wound. Too many so-called healers making claims that they have overcome their wound or they've never been wounded and that we shouldn't be talking about wounds as if it's even possible to do any iota of healing from that place of understanding. Healing begins with the wound. It begins with acknowledgement of where we are. That's what begins the path of the healer and the pioneer. That is what initiates us into bridging what may have caused separation and isolation in the past with what gives us meaning and purpose that unites us with those that actually recognize us. For it is our trauma, it's our wounds, it's our problems which unites us as a tribe. It is our woundedness, it is our pain, it is our suffering which unites us as a family. Those that understand, those that can relate to us are our soul members, are our soul tribe. And it is about the recognition of ourselves which gives us permission as a prerequisite to connect with those who will reflect back to us an understanding and a value of that which we carry in our hearts. And so, this is all leading up, of course, to a solar eclipse on August 21st. This is a powerful eclipse that is fundamentally about healing our soul's role and true purpose, which is about celebrating what makes us special, unique, and different as being a gift from God, and accepting that as our duty and our path, which is that which gives us ultimate fulfillment. But of course, there's also a lot of self-reflection that's going on. There's a lot to process that's going on. And lo and behold, Mercury is stationing to a slow in these next couple weeks. And on August 12th, will station retrograde at 11 degrees Virgo. Now, Mercury entered Virgo about a week ago. When Mercury is Virgo, we're more analytical. We're more precision honed. We're paying attention to details. We're noticing what's not perfectly right, and we're making those tiny little adjustments. Now, if we think that this is already analytical and focused, just wait. Mercury is stationing conjunct asteroid Vesta, who in herself is the asteroid of Virgo. She is focus, she is devotion, she is concise, meticulous, methodological, rituals. And so Mercury stationing retrograde is always a period of self-reflection. And we are very much hyper-analyzing, hyper-dissecting, very mental, very precision. Lunar eclipse in Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of objectivity, the most objective sign. Aquarius is like looking down onto life and the world as if it were a chemical reaction. And there are causes and effects, and there are magnetisms. It's a very scientific, objective type of lens, which, by the way, is a wonderful, wonderful gift when we combine that objectivity with emotional intelligence. And so it's a good thing that we have Venus in Cancer conjoining Ceres, because not only should we be imagining and conceptualizing, what is this truth? What is this future that we are bridging the present with right now? The question can also be, what does the future feel like? What does your future home feel like? What does your future relationship feel like? What does your future family, tribe, surrounding environment feel like, and be guided by your intuition and your feelings? The feelings of expansion with this lunar eclipse trine to Jupiter is what it's all about. Because yes, we can hyperanalyze, yes, we can become overly objective, and that is a means of becoming detached. That is where we start to lose ground sometimes. We become disassociated from reality and our heart, and we can lose perspective with too much objectivity. It's like floating out there in space, and you suddenly feel like the tiniest speck of dust in the entire world, like a spaceman floating in the middle of nowhere. And does anyone see me? Does anyone hear me? Is when we become overly disassociated. And yet when we combine the emotional intelligence, be led by our feelings and intuition with that scientific lens and objectivity, well, then you have all of the skills and capabilities to be an excellent counselor, to do your own type of self-diagnosis. And that is the recommendation, that is the opportunity with this Mercury retrograde on Vesta and a lunar eclipse on the moon's south node. This is all about self-diagnosis via our feelings and our objectivity as themes from our past are being brought up into the present, so that way our healing awareness can go back and go down into the past, into the trauma, into the isolation, the misunderstanding. And by bringing our healing awareness to those places, boom, the breakthroughs, the eureka moments, the discoveries, and the pioneering breakthroughs are happening as we commit to our own self-diagnosis, being our own initiators into our own path of unfolding into our own self-expression. Wordy Gemini over here. So, very interestingly and no coincidence, Mercury begins his retrograde at 11 degrees Virgo on August 12th and retrogrades back to 28 degrees Leo, the exact same degree of our approaching solar eclipse in Leo on September 5th. So this is about self-reflection, this is about self-diagnosis, this is about liberation from past self-identities and roles as we evolve our personal philosophy and truth, which is bringing us back to Leo, our heart, our true role, our true purpose. What do you sound like when you're singing your songs and nobody is there to listen in or judge you? Is getting to what our true soul's purpose is. What does that sound like? What does that feel like to you? Go back to your childhood. What did that little boy or girl do when she was free on her own on the playground and there was nobody around? What did that little boy or girl do? What did that little boy or girl dream of in their future? Yes, little kids always say, I'll be an astronaut or a doctor when we grow up. But there's a feeling behind that. There's an excitement. I can be who I am. I can be whatever I want to be. That's the potency here. That's the liberation. We are coming into a time where we are even giving permission to souls. Oh, you don't feel identified with your body. You feel identified with a different gender. That's okay. That's okay. You are who you are on the inside. You are who you are by singing your song and your expression and your truth from your heart. That does not come from anything on the outside at all. And so, through this entire month, we are feeling the effects of this solar eclipse. And the solar eclipse, particularly a total solar eclipse, extends for many months. The next 6 months, you could even say the next 18 years, is sowing the seed intention to heal our soul's self-expression by unplugging from all of the distractions, the interferences, the outside opinions of others, the scrutiny of the therapist who impressed their own way of thinking onto you and made you question, is that really who I am, how they see me? And a key word for Leo is, don't worry about how other people see you. Trust me, I have a big Leo complex. It's very much easier said than done. But my own personal mantra I'm practicing these days is, hello, you will not see who I am. And it's a pleasure to be here anyways. I am confident enough in my own truth as my own guide and my own path that it's wonderful to be here, even though you may not see totally who I am. And it's funny that by giving ourselves that permission to be that confident, we access a type of self-expression that allows other people to see us more for who we truly are. There is always this paradoxical relationship. And so Aquarius is about liberation from these limiting roles. And it's also about connecting with other people simultaneously. We don't want to be in the South Node in a disassociated, isolated, like that spaceman drifting out in outer space type of way. We want to be bridging that vast sense of distance anyways, by continuing to sing our song, Be Who We Truly Are, and to liberate ourselves from all past patterns, projections, relationship dynamics that truly interfere and get in the way of that. This is in many respects what relationship is fundamentally all about, as we are always constantly learning more of who we actually are, and so are the people that are around us. There is always this upward spiral of evolution as we change and transform. But as we see the other more and more, we fall deeper in love with that essence, and we aspire to help them evolve, seek their own liberation, be who they truly are, without the expectations or obligations of what it means to be my lover, what it means to be my partner. You need to be this, you need to be that. It's about loving that expression, that truth in you that is free, that is liberated, and that is attractive. And other people love to see us for who we truly are. And so this is what relationship is fundamentally about. This is about all relationships, any connection, our family, our work associates. It is about recognizing one another and supporting each other's individual growth as we liberate ourselves. And as we liberate ourselves, we become natural forces of liberating others simply through being that special self-expression that you are. And so, I don't want to talk too much and overcloud what we've already said, but this is a powerful time. That's a word that gets used too often by astrologers, but this is eclipse season, this is Uranus retrograde, this is Mercury retrograde. A tremendous amount of change and transformation is going on. That's going to require a good amount of inner processing to piece all of the little bits and pieces together. And so give yourself a balance of room to explore, experiment, break free, liberate, be flexible, create new patterns that you've never created before, and simultaneously give yourself permission to come in and process those changes, integrate these changes, allow yourself time to reflect. Allow yourself that self-reflection because it is the necessary prerequisite to getting in tune with ourselves, our emotional well-being on the inside. And then we can go back out again, experiment, explore. This is not a pass or fail type of reality. Not with a Mercury retrograde in Virgo, Uranus retrograde, and lunar eclipse in Aquarius. This is not a pass or fail, right or wrong reality. You are not going to get punished for making mistakes. You are not being punished for making mistakes. This is a trial and error journey of exploration, and we are all pioneers in the heart, exploring and discovering what it means to be a human being. That way we can celebrate and cherish what that means to us. And so in that endeavor, I am absolutely wishing you all the best. I have an approaching workshop with my teacher, Kai Pacha, at the very beginning of September, Labor Day weekend in Asheville, North Carolina. There are still openings, but it is selling out quickly. So for those of you who would like to get in touch with me personally, wonderful opportunity to go into and study your shadow in your natal chart is the theme of this workshop in Asheville, North Carolina. And this is, of course, foreshadowing a year ahead of Jupiter in Scorpio. And so we're all doing this exploring of the deep end at this time. And for those of you who would like to get in touch with me on a more individual, personal, and intimate connection, I offer individual birth readings at my website below, rosalilahealing.com. It is an honor and a pleasure to speak to you and to do this work. Thank you so much, and again, wishing you all the best. Take care.